Hi everyone, it's Tom to look at Diablo 3 on Switch, covering the docked and portable modes, and who better to join me to talk about it than John.
Thanks, Tom. It's going to be an interesting one, I think, because there's been a lot of talk about Diablo on portable as of late.
Yeah, we've seen all sorts of ports to Switch, and this might be one of the better ones I've seen, to be honest. It comes from Iron Galaxy, who worked with Blizzard. Iron Galaxy also did the Skyrim port to Switch as well. Or a more flattering way to say it is a conversion, because really that's what this is. They've done a pretty great job all round, you know, in terms of the visuals, performance and controls, which we'll kind of cover going into this video. The reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because you've had experience with this at Gamescom already, I believe.
Yes, that's right. So they first showed the game off and in fact announced it back around the Gamescom time. And they did have the Switch version up and playable for us on the show floor. And I had a chance to play it in 4-player mode, in portable mode, in fact. So, you know, we're all connected wirelessly via the Switch's Wi-Fi connection. And yeah, it looked and ran great. But obviously, within the scope of a demo, there's not going to be a lot that you can say about performance issues that could crop up. So, first of all, I'm curious to see what you found in terms of resolution. And then we'll talk about other compromises made to get this on the Switch. So, Tom, what are we looking at here? Are we at a full 4K or?
Sadly, not. I'd love to say that as possible. No. So Blizzard told us in advance that this was running at 960p around the time of the preview build you were playing, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
So I went in kind of expecting that, and you know, it's not too far down from 1080p. Now, in practice, what I found is 1600 by 900. Obviously, there might be some variance there. There may be something to do with the dynamic res, which meant I couldn't find 960p anywhere. But yeah, it was 900p everywhere I could look in the New Tristram opening area, the sort of the basic interiors. That's all I found as the upper bounds while you're docked. Now, it can go down to the lowest I've found is 1344 by 756, which makes it 70% of a full 1080p. You obviously do notice it when it goes down that far, but overall, you know, you're in the heat of action when that happens. All the effects are blazing.
Yeah, so that's interesting then, because, you know, it almost hit 720p, but that was the maximum bounds for the last generation version, which is what I would have thought to compare this to first. I think that version obviously maxed out at 720p, but it could drop below. It's good to see that the resolution here stays above that level at least. Based on what you're saying, it seems to hang close to 900p fairly often. But, you know, the whole 960p from Blizzard thing, I mean, that's just kind of the reality with modern dynamic resolution scaling is you can never be sure exactly. Like, there are always going to be instances where things could spike to that, so it's entirely possible that in some instance it could hit that. We got the resolution kind of knocked down in docked mode, but based on what you've told me about portable, it seems like, you know, it hits 720p, which is the native screen resolution enough of the time, and it can drop down to 960 by 540, which again, I think that those numbers are pretty consistent with a lot of the more demanding Switch games, so, you know, good stuff. But what I'm actually more curious about now is whether or not they were able to bring across the current generation version. So obviously Diablo 3 was on last-gen consoles, and then it was also brought to PS4 and Xbox One. So, Tom, did they bring over all the textures, effects, shadows, and whatnot, or are we looking more at sort of a 360-style port here?
I reckon it's best to see it as a last-gen plus version, but in terms of the visuals, you know, they've already confirmed that they dropped Bloom. Bloom doesn't make it where it was in the PS4 and Xbox One versions. That's sort of just an extra effect on the lamps, and it's not a major deal, to be honest, but it is something we don't have on Switch.
Oh, wait, is it those little like light coronas around the lamps?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, that's interesting they dropped that, but I guess it's not such a bad thing.
So ambient occlusion, you also had that on the PS4 and Xbox One versions. That's gone on Switch. Well, it's dialed back, so you don't see these pockets of shade around the New Tristram Inn. And also, Blizzard did confirm ahead of time that they dropped the quality of particle effects when things get really crazy, but I didn't notice. It's just so difficult to pick that out in the heat of action again, much like the resolution.
So it's like they dropped the resolution of the particle effects themselves, sort of like half or quarter res?
It's possible they dropped the instances of particles, so the density of them.
The density rather than the resolution of the specific particles. That all makes sense then. And does that translate over to the portable experience as well?
Yeah, so between portable and docked, they're the exact same feature set. Visually, it's just that discrepancy in resolution. So if you're taking it on the go, you've got the full experience there.
Yeah, so that sounds to me like a typical Switch game then, where it's going to look pretty nice on the portable screen, but yeah, you blow it up on a large screen. Your mileage will vary based on whether you're running like a 1080p or 4K screen, but that's not bad. And I'm kind of impressed here because, Iron Galaxy's work, they've done a lot of work on portables before, like including the Vita. I think they worked on Borderlands 2 even, which was not so good. So I'm happy to see that between this and Skyrim, we're getting great results now. So that's excellent. But it looks great. And from what I saw, it seems to play great. But I'm more curious to see, were you able to tank the frame rate at all? Or are we looking at a fairly steady 60 FPS here?
Well, I had a lot of fun with this today because I went in with my basic low-level barbarian, did the kind of typical run through the story. Nothing too exciting, to be honest. It's fairly run-of-the-mill and there's no effects going on. Lock 60 all the way. Whether that's docked or portable, no problem at all.
Now refresh me, was it like that on I remember PS3 and 360 had a noticeable amount of slowdown, but I can't recall if that was just with effects or if the normal gameplay, like you're just saying playing with the Barbarian, was actually slow as well.
Yeah, that's right. There was a sort of split between the animation and the frame rate on the camera movement. That's all fixed and it's all locked here. So it is better than the last gen versions, not only in resolution, but also the performance. The thing is, I did want to push it just for consistency's sake, and Eurogamer's editor, Ollie Welsh, had a level 25 save, wizard, tried that, pushed it to all the areas in Act 2, and there was one stutter when you had like an achievement pop up, but it was like a once in a blue moon type thing. So then, on top of that, I decided to push things even further for the hardcore Diablo players. And for that, I got Metabomb's John Bedford, who basically jumped in with his level 70 character completely maxed, and we went into a greater rift, and he absolutely threw everything at the screen. And in that case, yeah, you go down to like 45 and even 40 as a low point. Now he is very keen to stress, because he's our kind of resident Diablo 3 expert, that this is really an exceptional case. This is really pushing the engine, and most of the time it is just 60 flat, so nothing to worry about.
This was in co-op though, and with how many people?
It was me and John, and I was basically piggybacking.
So I guess the question I have then is it the stage causing the issue, or is it the amount of effects that the wizard was throwing around, or a combination of the two? Like if you were there by yourself as a barbarian, is it any faster? It
was actually just as bad solo. So it was a fair test to just run through with just his character, and it was more about the density of enemies and the amount of effects they were pushing out. So actually going into co-op didn't really affect much. I mean, I'm sure it would be a little bit worse if you have 4 players kicking off all their effects, but you're still getting down to like 45 and 40 FPS while docked. Yeah, we did try it in portable as well with a bit of co-op play, and it was kind of the exact same level of performance, the same reading down to 45, 40. So yeah, I mean, as the worst case, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, usually when we look at frame rates, it's for the people watching, it's best to keep in mind that, we are trying to find worst case scenarios within, the confines of what we can examine during that period. So in this case, it sounds like the game is effectively a locked 60 FPS like most of the time during normal play. But there are going to be instances like the area that you've mentioned where you can get some dips. So to me, that sounds like a massive improvement over the last gen versions, big time, but maybe not quite as smooth as the others. But the fact that the portable mode runs similarly or basically identically to the docked mode, I mean, that's a great thing there, since that's obviously one of the defining features.
I don't think there's any rival, to be honest. This is one of the best ways to play Diablo 3. Factoring in the portable side, yeah, absolutely. It's the Eternal Collection Edition, of course. It includes all the expansions. It is a complete package, so you've got to give it credit for that. Also, it's worth just quickly touching on like the online play and the controls a bit later on. But yeah, the online play, you do need a Nintendo Online subscription to go online.
Oh, right, of course.
But the cool thing is you can still go local wireless with 3 other people just in the same room without that.
I would hope so. I mean, that's always been a staple of, well, it was a staple of classic Xbox games even, where you'd sort of have the local LAN play option. So, okay, that's good to know.
Also, you get all the passive online stuff like leaderboards, challenge rifts, and seasons. That all just works without the subscription. So they've done it right. And also the controls, worth touching on because this is kind of a very key tenet of what Switch is about. These are very flexible. There's an innovative use of the Joy-Cons here as well. So you can even play with a single Joy-Con for each player, and you can connect on the portable screen alone and just huddle around with 4 players.
Oh, that's cool.
But obviously whether that's comfortable or not is... I'm not going to say it's the best way to play. You're missing that right analog stick to do the rolls.
Okay.
But, it is there. They've made the best attempt they could to make that work. Obviously, there's all the 4-player stuff, and you can network, and you can basically mix and match between all these styles of play.
Great. Okay, so then the last thing I wanted to know then is, did you check on file size?
Yes, it's 13 gigabytes in file size.
I guess I'm more curious then about how it's going to ship, because, as a complete version for the Switch, it'd be nice to be able to buy this on a cart and just have the whole game on there. But, there's been this bad habit of some Switch titles shipping with an incomplete game in order to use a smaller cart. And I'm curious if they went for the 16 gig cart and it's all there, or if they went for like an 8 gig and said, oh, forced download. I guess we'll know soon enough when the US box art shows up, whether it has that large white stripe along the top saying, hey, you got to download part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see that. But yeah, overall, very, very impressed with this. It is the first Blizzard title, I believe, to come onto a Nintendo console since... maybe it's been 15 years since Rock and Roll Racing on Game Boy Advance.
Oh yeah, that's right. Wow, yeah. They also ported Blackthorn over to Game Boy Advance, and they did that nice StarCraft port to N64 before that, which I think is one of the rarest games in the PAL region for N64. I think it only came out in like Australia. But yeah, okay, that's enough of that. Basically, from what I'm hearing and from what I played at Gamescom, it sounds to me like this is a really nice port. Iron Galaxy did a great job here. Performance sounds good. Resolution sounds pretty reasonable considering the Switch. If it's all on one cart, like I'm hoping, this might actually be a version I will pick up just to have a complete console-ready sort of local multiplayer experience ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, I guess we'll leave it there. Thanks so much, John, for joining me.
Sure thing, Tom. Thanks for having me.
And let's do the outro spiel. What was it? If you did like this video, please give us a like or subscribe to support what we do. And also ring that bell there if you want notifications as soon as any of our videos land on the channel. There's also the source file to this video on our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net. And if you want to get in touch with me or John, you can do exactly that through Twitter. But from the both of us, thanks for watching and see you next time.